Welcome, listeners, to yet another episode 39 of the Row of Attention podcast. And today we will be discussing a short story written by Anthony Simeone, if I pronounce that name correctly. It's a submission to a website called D&D Adventure, where anybody can submit their short stories to publish. And Anthony Simeone, as far as we know, had never written another story, and this is his only contribution to the literary world, shall we say. Anyway, wow. Let me start with a short summary of his story, A Warrior's Reward. Thidrek of Narad, an aging warrior with a haunted past on a desperate search for salvation, rested his feet in the shadowed rest. An inn situated near the fabled Aros mountains of Ulmer. Ferran, the innkeeper, recognized him at once as a veteran in the struggle against the invasion from the alfaris of Matharan many years ago. Drawing 2 tankards of ale, Ferran went over to the table Thudrek had seated himself by and greeted him by name. At once suspicious, for Thudrek is a man with a bounty on his head, the warrior reached for his dagger. Blood would surely have been shed had Ferran not rolled up his sleeve and showed Thudrek the mark of a hawk tattooed on his arm, along with a hand missing 2 fingers. Thudrek knew well the hawk, for was he not once the counselor of war to King Abram? The tattoo was the insignia of the 4th Legion. Ferran had shown himself to be a fellow soldier from that terrible war. Reminiscing over the conflict, Thudrek revealed the bitter burden he had been carrying all these years. His failure to prevent the king's assassination by foul sorcery from the hands of the alfari weighed upon his soul. Unable to convince Prince Ferran, King Abram's young son, who ascended to the throne after the king's death, that he was no traitor, Thudrek was forced to flee the court in disgrace. A fugitive for many years, Thudrek suffered the slanders from the king's cowardly advisors, who had always been jealous of his relationship with the old king. He could find no respite, not only from the noose around his neck, but from his conscience' unceasing lament and regret that he was unable to save his king and friend. Thus it was that Thidrek found himself here, searching for an old legend of the tankards, the warrior's reward, a place where a warrior might earn his entry into eternal paradise and rumored to be nestled within the Aros mountain range. Shrewd to the old soldier's desire, for was not Ferran also a soldier, his own conscience stained and blackened by the blood of the lives he had taken? The innkeeper revealed to Thidrek that he too sought the tankards. More importantly, Ferran had the means to find this mythical place. Claiming to have purchased a map to the tankards from a drunken villager, Ferran had the map translated from ancient alfari by a priest. The innkeeper had not dared to set forth on a solitary exploration, for the translation made mention of great trials that awaited the warrior that sought this reward. With great excitement, Thudrek convinced Ferran that together they could overcome whatever trials that awaited them and find entry into the tankards. Swept up by Thudrek's fervor, Ferran agreed, and the duo set off the next day to find their destiny. After an arduous trek, particularly for Ferran, who was no longer in his peak, they reached the grassy plain wherein a granite mound flanked by 2 pillars of stone stood. Carved into the mound was the likeness of an ancient alfari king, and the 2 of them knew that they had found what they sought, the warrior's reward. Approaching the carving, they were immediately beset by phantoms of their past. All the lives lost to their blade during the war had arisen to demand an accounting of their crimes. Unable to face their judgment, Ferran fell, seemingly crushed by the weight of his guilt. Thudrek was not so easily shaken, however. The spectres died by his hands, it was true, but he had never once dishonored them, nor had he taken their lives through capricious malice. Always, it was true, the exercise of war and combat where two foes had no choice but to face one another. Undaunted, he shouted his defiance to the ghost, for he will not go willingly unto his death. Faced with his resolve, the spectres found him worthy and gifted him the key to enter the ruins. Touching Thidrek's raised sword, they instructed him to place his blade into the hand of the Stone King before disappearing. Realizing that this was the trial that the ancient alfari text spoke of and that their greatest foes had been themselves all along, Thidrek offered his sword to the Stone King. He had earned the right to Sankar-Badel. A rumbling emanated from the ground as the entrance to the Sankar-Badel opened before him. Grateful for the chance to set bloodshed aside at last, Thidrek entered the burrow to confront and claim what lay within. Alright. So.
Wait, you left out the twist.
Because I actually want the... I don't want to reveal the twist. Yeah.
I actually going to talk about the story if we
we can talk about the story, but I don't want the summary to ruin the twist if people want to actually pursue the story. Yeah. So because it's spoilers, right? I mean, all right. Well, so let's start with you, Nikki.
I want to talk about the twist because otherwise
totally. But I don't want to have it in the summary just in case people want to go and read it.
Okay, so this is your last warning then, in case there's going to be a what's it called? A link in the doodly-doo to the website and to the story if you want to read it. But so in my when I read this story for the first time, I felt as if I'm holding it and it was like pieces of marble slowly becoming sand in my hands because it was losing me more and more because more and more it just seemed like this typical, for the lack of a better word, bullshit adventure where there's all these circumstances that happen for the hero, and he gets to go to this place and he meets all the right people and all those right people have the right stuff, and then the ending smacks you over the head because it was all a setup. Right, the entire thing was a setup from the start. All of these inconsistencies are actually something that, if you paid attention to, get paid off right in the end because Ferran is alive and he is an ancient sorcerer who has been siphoning people's life essence in order to survive forever, and he's gonna do the same with this old hero. Due to his aura, due to the fact that he wants to live, due to the fact that he's willing to fight, right? So there's a reason why he has taken this man, and the reason he knew this was like, this is the perfect dude to do this. It's perfect. I think the last twist, putting everything into place and making the story so much more coherent, done by let's face it, an unknown author that I've never heard of before. This is a fantastic tale. I think this is the type of tale that they should put into magazines so people can read it. It really is well done, and it does the best thing that the hobby that I love, because it was written for D&D adventures. This is also the perfect setup for a D&D adventure. Introduce a person who seems to be benevolent, who is helping the heroes, and in the end make them the villain. It is trope as all this time, and the fact that I got lured into the sense of security with the warrior's reward and didn't realize it right until the end that Ferran is this nefarious sorcerer. Well done, Mr. Simeone. Well done. I'm very impressed. I really enjoyed the story.
Rob, let's hear your take. What spicy take do you have for us?
Not enough cat loving.
I'm going to have to disappoint people even more because I enjoyed the story up till the twist, and then I was disappointed at the twist. So my attitude is the exact opposite to Nikki's. Mind you, the whole thing is very skillfully done, no doubt about that. The quality of the writing, the imagination is very high. The only thing is that maybe because I haven't read this sort of thing so much, I was quite impressed by the philosophical, if you like, the moral structure of it, the idea that your greatest enemy is your own overdeveloped sense of guilt, and if you can slay that, if you like, then you win your warrior's reward. That to me was quite a moving idea, and then to have the whole thing as a setup, I found rather deflating. Sorry if that's
Depressing.
the wrong attitude to take, but that
No,
was
I don't think it's the wrong attitude. I think that is a very valid way of looking at it, and what's it called? In actually the way you've put it, in a very eloquent way. I agree with you completely. Actually, it is quite debilitating and saddening that this sort of like very fantastical and skillful conclusion gets sort of undercut by the fact that the world is evil. But that's why I love it, because the world is evil. That's that's the world I've been living with. This to me screams exactly as the world is. That you find this little beauty, this nice little flower that showcases to you it was all worth it. I found the meaning. And somebody takes it and destroys it in front of you, and you have to live with it and continue.
Well,
but it is
not
beautiful.
Not all the world is evil. I mean, our podcasts, for example, are pretty good.
I mean, that's true. That's true. We are the shining light for humanity. But I do like your take, Robert. It's not the fact that the story itself is terrible without the twist. It's more the fact that like maybe this is the thing, because I've read and have seen these type of setups so many times, having the twist of it being that there is something very nefarious happening. Maybe that's why it really elevated the story for me. And you have not read this type of fiction, so for you the conventions have not been set up right for them to be twisted.
Yeah.
What about you, XJ?
Well, I'm let's see. How should I start?
With words, please.
I'm gonna flash a series of pictures, and that's how you're gonna know what I think. Now, the first thing that popped to my mind really was you guys remember that I submitted a story to online magazine a while back? Yeah.
The drag. You mean the Devil's Daughter?
Yeah, the Devil's Daughter. You remember that one?
Yeah, for sure.
I didn't write the story for the website. I just wrote the story and then submitted to a website. You know what the website says? We don't want stories that start in a tavern. Or fantasy adventures seem to start in a tavern.
It's the best place to start. That's my opinion. I think they're completely and totally wrong about this one.
So, Mr. Anthony Simeone, if you are listening to this, and I hope you are, that's feedback from a magazine's editor.
Shit rubbish, in my opinion.
Anyway, I have no judgment one way or the other. Although the editor did point out a very common trope, which is all fantasy adventures seem to start in a tavern. You recall?
Have it start in a cafe instead, then. I mean,
you should have wrote that. Actually, I could have. Next time it will be a bakery. Don't you worry about it.
Yeah. I mean, you think about it, right? Even like I'm sure Nikki, you've written short stories that start in a tavern.
My dear friend.
Even Robert E. Howard. You remember
Yeah,
the Tower
episode
of the
one.
Elephant? Yeah, it started in a tavern.
Tower of the Elephant. How does it start? Conan is like some people are just trying to enjoy their meal at a tavern, and Conan's like, I'm here on an adventure. I'm going to the Tower of the Elephant. You can't go there. Shut up. Yes, I can. And then he goes there. Right?
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah, this is no way meant to be a criticism, but I just found it really funny because the editor was completely right.
That all stories start in. Yeah, I mean, so what? Honestly.
I mean, sure.
I'm
So what? So what? Totally. But yeah, I just found it really funny.
Yeah.
Okay,
Is that the limitation of your analysis?
I'm just
It
going
started in a tavern.
I'm just gonna say that's just my take on the whole story. No.
Yeah.
Obviously, I have more. So first of all,
Okay.
for when I said in my summary before my summary, I said that this is Anthony Mr. Simeone's only contribution to the literary world, and Nikki was like, wow, as if I'm like painting out Mr. Simeone to be lacking in some way, but that's not actually what I was trying to go for. So as the only entry that he had contributed to the publishing world, this is very high standard. It is very well written. Like obviously it would have been better if he had an editor to go through some of it, because some of the sentences don't felt a little bit heavy. But you know what? All of us would benefit from an editor. So, right?
I feel like I've been called out. I don't appreciate it.
I mean, I need an editor myself. I need
I do too. It was more like a carry on.
Yeah. So, but aside from that, like the structure of the flow, the interaction between Thidrek and Ferran while they were in the tavern, and then the emotional landscape that Thidrek has, his suffering, his burden, and his struggles to overcome that all makes sense. Even Ferran, the background story that he had woven for himself also makes sense, right? And as we come to the twist in the story, it also, like, his real thing also makes sense. Like we know, if you follow the story, we eventually find out that Ferran is a kind of necromancer of some sort, and then he survives through taking the lives of siphoning the lives of other people, and everything totally makes sense. It's very well written. So that is for a first time entry, and I assume this is a first time entry. It is very, very good.
Yeah, I tried to do some research about Anthony Simeone, because I was the one who submitted the story. I looked at D&D Adventures, the website, and I found this gem, and I thought would read about it. But I haven't found anything about him besides a Twitter handle that I think is the same individual, because he does write in his bio that he's a writer and that he does stuff with Dungeons and Dragons. But I unfortunately have not received any confirmation as of yet. What were you gonna say, Rob?
No, I wasn't saying. I was listening to what you were saying very carefully.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, in that case, I will continue. I will continue talking because I like the sound of my own voice.
Yeah.
True.
Yes. Okay. So first of all, I know nothing about Mr. Simeone, but I would absolutely love to read more stories by Mr. Simeone. Let's put it that way. So if Mr. Simeone has any book writing ambitions, I heartily encourage him to do so, because he is a very good writer. Now, having said all that, here comes the punch, right? The moment Ferran said he bought a map of a drunken villager, my alarm bells went off. And I was like, yeah, Ferran's probably not what he seems. And I was thinking, yeah, there's probably going to be a twist where Ferran is the bad guy. And then when the twist does come, I found it flat, deflating, to borrow Rob's words. Although probably not in the same way, in the same way that Robert looks at it, because I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Robert, you look at it as deflating a very powerful philosophical point.
Well, yeah, and a moral point as well. I thought it made a good moral sense the way it was going to end without the twist.
For me, though, it was, man, I can see this coming a mile off, and it is, and there are a lot of other things that clued me into it, and it's like, why would a paradise be in a burrow, like the entrance to paradise be in a burrow? Like, people might think this is not a non-point; it could be anywhere, but there are certain tropes that people are used to, shorthands, so to speak.
I thought of it as the Raiders of the Lost Ark type of thing, where Indiana Jones is picking up the Holy Grail, and there's a bunch of them, and some of them are made of gold, some of them made of silver with beautiful jewels, and then the one cup that looks like just a cup, that's the Holy Grail. So to me, I was like, well, it's probably like in this burrow, because no one is ever going to think that the paradise would be there. That was my
that
thinking.
that was a little bit different in my opinion, because the cup thing was a test.
Right, but isn't it like without the map you can't really find this place, right?
Well, yes,
So
but what my point is that for all appearances, the Sanka Badal, the paradise is underground, and I mean the price itself is underground. It's and usually when we think of the underground, it's not to paradise. Is to hell, is to the underneath, the dark and dirty, dank places. You know what?
Sure. In the Christian sense, for sure. Yeah.
No, not just in the Christian sense, in the Eastern sense as well. Really.
Well, like Greek mythology, it's underground is all of the underworld, even the good parts, right? For example.
Well, anyway, usually, like I would say, like going underground tends to have connections to, like, within the human shared history is usually associated with some kind of death, some kind of burial, And so when I looked at it, I was like, why are they going into a burrow? And that was when I'm like, you know what? There's probably some kind of vampire hiding at the end, some kind of witch, some kind of a thing like that Clark Ashton Smith story that we did with the Lamia. What's the name again of that story?
The end of the story.
The end of a story. Yes, that one. So when basically the moment Thidrek entered the burrow, I was thinking. The story that jumped into my head was the end of a story. And
what?
Yes.
Yeah, go on, sorry.
Yeah. So
I was gonna. Yeah. Okay.
No. Please go ahead.
So, what was it that captured you? What was it that was enjoyable about the tale for you, actually?
Well, I mean, like, the story is very well written. It's got good pacing. I mean, the craftsmanship of it is very good. Yeah.
What
And
about the tale of the backstory of the main character? I'm gonna butcher his name. Thidrek. Yeah, Thidrek.
Thidrek, I don't
Yeah.
know.
Neither do I. So yeah, but his tale, the idea that he is this man who has lost a war and a good friend has been pushed out politically. I think that is, at least to me, that really contributed to my enjoyment of the tale because I like the idea of this person world building the world through a single event of this individual. Right, I found it quite organic. How did you find it?
So I found the trope itself to be common. As in a soldier burdened with a past in a war, and then he was once a counselor to a king, close advisor to a king, and then framed for murder and blah blah blah. That is very common. What I did like was the way it was woven into the story itself, so that it allows for a whole bunch of setup, and that the world building is built through the narrative and not a lore dump. Like, it's not just one big wall of text that tells you, here this happened, that happened at this time, blah blah blah, there's this race, and then there's another race, and then they had a war, blah blah blah, kind of thing. Everything came out through conversation. Is a very good way of filling in the background of the world for a reader, I feel. Yeah, but the twist at the end, I wish it was a slightly different twist, maybe something different.
What would you change?
I'm not. I haven't given it much thought, but anything but a necromancer sucking the life out of people, I guess, with a vampire-like type of creature. Yeah. It's like it would have been more interesting, I feel, if it wasn't so it was an evil wizard after all, It would have been a bit more interesting if it's something like
It's
that.
a sort of blanket denial, isn't it, of the whole story up to that time. It's like you can bin the whole story up to that time because none of it applies to reality, because really it was just a con, It's
Yeah.
like these stories where, well, I don't know if anybody has really written them, but one thinks of the idea of writing a story and then it all turns out to be a dream.
Yes.
So none of it was
Yes.
real.
Actually, just building off that point, it would have been better for me if there wasn't an evil wizard and Thidrek did enter the Sankar and found his paradise, except that the paradise was not quite what he envisioned. Like, I would say he was very glad to set bloodshed aside, maybe. And then the Sankar actually is eternal battle, an eternal battleground where he must shed more blood. That, I mean, just tossing it out of my head, that would have been a more interesting
That's a cool one.
crushing of his Thidrek's spirit, and then you find all the all the people who had been through the Sankar and earned their reward, so to speak, are completely nutters themselves. That would have been a little bit more interesting for me, rather than a wizard.
I would still have the twist that there's something bad going on, but I would change Ferran's way in it, his role. So I would have had Ferran be someone that Thidrek knew in his life. So when he meets him, it's actually one of his comrades who's like, "Oh man, you served in the 4th Legion too," and blah blah blah. And I would have throughout the story that they're reliving this sort of like experience, and then I would have Ferran be sort of an unwilling puppet to what lies in this quote-unquote paradise, and I'd still have the paradise there, so that it's sort of like luring Thidrek in it, right? But the idea would be that Ferran is himself an unwilling participant who knows so much about Thidrek and can, let's put it this way, trick him into following his old comrade into this impossible quest, right? And so the ending would be then sort of Thidrek once again trusting a friend, or having a friend's fate change his fate, right? So it like his cycle repeats, just the same as it had been with the king. So now he has been put into a perilous situation because of his friend, because he hasn't learned that maybe sometimes you have to look out for yourself. I'd even have it so that like Ferran's soul is sort of being dissipated into this place, and Thidrek goes after it to once again show loyalty to a friend, and sort of he himself gets trapped in this area because of it.
That isn't a bad idea at all. I mean, it's a different kind of twist with different emotional struggles to be had. Yeah, I could go with that too. Yeah, just
I wanted it to sort of appeal a little bit to the Roberts type of viewership, so that there's still this moral message in it.
Yeah. No, I mean,
I didn't mean
okay.
that to be funny. Yeah, go on.
Ooh. Okay.
No,
anyhow.
I just said it in earnest.
Anyhow, I feel like the only real issue I had with well, issue is too strong a word. The only the thing that would have made it immensely better, this short story, is it if it didn't quite follow tropes so much. Yeah, it's a very skillful amalgamation of several tropes together, and skillfulness in writing. I don't regard myself as an artist. I'm more of a craftsman, and craftsmanship means a lot to me. And I can just like Rob, I can forgive a lot if the craftsmanship is good. And so I would still read a story by Mr. Simeone even if he continued stringing tropes together. But I just feel it would be much better if it didn't start off in a tavern. It wasn't a warrior with a burden in the past like Guts. And there wasn't an evil necromancer at the end as the enemy. Yeah. Basically, that's about it. Do you guys have anything else to say? Anything else that struck you? Maybe Rob?
All right, let's do the. Oh, Robert, do you have something?
No, I was going to say, I'm just trying to think how you could possibly write a story without the things that XJ suggests it should be without. It's very difficult to think of one, actually. You could say the story has no warriors trying to forget their past. Well, that's quite a good idea to not have that, but I'm just thinking it's not easy. And you could start the story in a bistro, I suppose. What was the third thing that we mustn't have? Oh yes, no necromancers. Yeah.
Yeah.
No evil wizards at the end. I mean, that's so common in fantasy stories.
Come on, evil wizards are the best.
Just
like
I mean,
taverns,
no.
just
Okay,
like
no.
warriors trying to forget their past.
Let me expand that. No evil wizards, no evil dragons.
No evil dragon. All right, now you've lost
Please.
me. I was like,
Yeah.
you know what, Akshay? Maybe, but no evil dragons. Come
Please, come on, man. Every fantasy story has an evil dragon and an evil wizard somewhere, you know, like their clone. And it would be very nice if the fight was more to me, if the struggle was a lot more John Wyndham style, where it's not against an active malice, but just the world as it is.
Yes, it's dog eat dog. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Sure. Okay, so let's bring the segment back for the New Year's. I know we didn't have it in the previous episode, but in this episode we could. I think there is stuff that there is to grab onto. So if we had to write a sequel to this tale, what would we do? Right, and as it ends, right, we can't be like, all right, well, my version of the story now has a sequel. No, like the way a warrior's reward ends is where we have to continue from.
Yeah. Have to have the necromancer having absorbed all these other souls or whatever. He starts to get indigestion.
And he has to seek his friend, the evil dragon, in a tavern in order to alleviate these symptoms.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a pretty comedic way to continue.
You could have him saying, maybe being evil isn't all that fun. I know, I'll try and be good. See what that's like.
I'll live an eternal life in a good way. Yeah, okay, sure. Very, very hopeful.
That would be a twist, wouldn't it?
That would be a twist. You know what? That I cannot take away from you. That would definitely be a twist. Actually, do you have an idea?
Yeah, I would do a bait and switch actually. Immediately after.
Don't tell me that the evil wizard becomes good. I will walk out here.
No, the evil wizard becomes the main character of the story, and the story is just all about him sucking the life out of other people.
And why he's doing it? Maybe
and why he's doing
backstory.
it exactly.
Yeah.
And then we get to see the evil wizard and his ambitions taking fruit or whatever it is, you know, what he's trying to achieve, and then how he's achieving it, and then actually achieving it or not achieving it at the end. And I think that would make it a lot more interesting because we seldom have an all-out evil character as the protagonist, don't we? We have had evil villains, but they are usually the antagonists, and if they have their own spin-offs, it is a spin-off. It's not actually based around them.
Maybe that would be like part of a short story challenge that we could do. Would be to write unorthodox protagonists, one of which could be villain.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, actually that brings up a good point. I was thinking of doing another short story challenge myself, and I'm gonna put a date to it. I'm gonna start next week.
Oh, okay. What's the idea?
I have no idea. No clue. I'm just gonna
Okay.
jump in and start. I will try to do it in 2 weeks, just like we did before.
Do you want suggestions, or do you want to just do it on your own?
I'm gonna take this my own way this time around. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay.
So next week,
so
can you give me a
yeah.
quick date? What is next week?
Well, don't date the episodes so they don't know when we recorded it.
Sure. All right. Okay. Well, it will be.
Maybe this is 2021, guys.
It will be 2 weeks from this podcast, basically. All right.
Yeah. Okay. So quickly, here's my sequel idea. All right. So we take Thidrek's legacy, and that's where it ends. That's where he's gone, right? And to defy the critics, to defy the editor of that magazine, we start a story in a tavern, you know, whatever. and it's a group of adventurers who are talking about going somewhere. I know, really controversial here, story writing, but they're searching for Thidrek because the king wasn't dead. So the king that was supposedly poisoned and buried alive has apparently come back to life. And this is not a good comeback to life. This is not like, oh, it's Jesus and he's the same as he is 3 days later. He's a lich and he's risen from the land. And the only thing that he's said so far, as he's been destroying the countryside with the undead army, is Thidrek. He's looking for him. And so this group of adventurers is like, well, we can't defeat this guy. He's been destroying towns. We need to find Thidrek. Where is his last location? And they get to Shadow's Rest. And they're asking everybody. Right? And these are pretty smart dudes. These are smart gals and girls. This is not an old warrior alone. These are professional adventurers. So they sniff out that something's wrong. Right? And they go towards Ferran. And they snuff him out and they realize something weird is going on here. He's really strange. He is unlike any other innkeeper that they've ever met. Long story short, they find out about what Ferran has been up to because they go through records and this dude has been there for like forever, basically, under different names, under different pseudonyms, but some things they just sort of like connect too well, right? And they're like, well, the last time this Thidrek guy has been seen is with you. So where is he, right? And they they get to him, and once they free Thidrek, that's when the lich stops, and the lich literally, like, his body, his essence, his soul dies because he's been looking for Thidrek. And so the end of the tale is Thudrek being saved, but now already as an old man because life has been seeped out of him. Ferran being locked in his own sort of, prison of sorts. And there is now hope in the world because maybe Thudrek can do something better now that he has been rescued and life has been brought back to the world. Perhaps there's a spark that it can ignite a better future. There you go. That's my tale. That's my sequel.
Cool. Sounds like a D&D module right there. So
that's right. It is a D&D story.
Yeah. I mean, you totally can see the roots, right? I mean, maybe it's not so obvious to Rob because Rob, you don't play this kind of games, but the story is really very typical of a one shot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, a very dreary one shot that I could run for sure. Yeah, I could see myself doing that kind of a story.
Yeah, it's like a one shot. It's like one shot. It's like you sit down for a 4-hour session, and then you run the campaign, and then it finishes in a day. And your mates have fun, you have fun, drink too much beers maybe, and then too much pizzas, and then that's it. Nice fun time. And I guess my one word summary I would have for the whole story is fun.
Fun. Fantastic. I agree. Fun.
It's fun.
Should we do our scores?
Yep.
Okay, I give it a solid
11 out of
9.
20. 11 out of 10.
9. All right, 19 out of 20 or 9 out of 10. It almost rolled a critical success. Almost, but the things that hold me back a little bit is what XJ said, and that is the fact that there, an editor could have helped this, which is like, pretty rich coming out of me, because if you've ever seen a first draft of everything I've written, you would be like, this is a monster, kill it with fire, right? So,
I mean,
I get it.
I mean, it's how do I say this? I can definitely see the care that went into the writing. Let's put it that way. Yeah. And you, Rob?
I would not give it my usual score. I would take 2 points off simply because I was so disappointed about the twist. So I would give it 8 out of 10, which is quite a low score for me. But It's not at all bad, really.
It's still higher than I'm giving it. I'm giving it a 7 out of 10.
All right, we've got a nice even spread, 9, 8, 7.
Yeah, it's like a full house, right? Is that what the hand is called? Full house? 7, 8, 9, 10?
You'd need one more there.
Oh, okay. Well, whatever.
And full house is 3 of a kind and 2 of a kind. That's full house.
Right. So as you can see, I don't play poker.
We're very disappointed, apparently. No, it's fine. Yeah, all right. Well, listeners, thank you so much for delving into the story with us, going on a journey, so to speak. I do recommend reading it, right? Like I said right before we started spoiling it. But even if you know the ending, I think the way it's written and the way you get to the twist, as well as the world building, even though in some places cliche, as XJ has said, it's worth reading and worth enjoying. It's and it's free. It's free, guys.
Well, my last words is addressed to Mr. Simeone if he ever listens to this podcast. Please write another story.
And no twists this time. Just straightforward.
All right, well, is that your last word, Rob? Last words?
Yeah.
Less twists.
No twist. Write another story, but no twist. Okay.
Yeah, please, more conventional storytelling. God, we don't have that.
All right. Thank you for your patience. Thank you for listening. Thank you for your attention. If you like the podcast, please subscribe and join us nearly every week for a new episode.
Yeah.
Until then, everyone, have a good day.
Bye.
Take care.